color and pattern to the inside of our shapes, let's move on to the outside. That's our stroke or rule. Now, this box that I just drew has a pretty boring, straight black rule. Let's go down to that lower right of our tool palette. Make sure we're addressed to the stroke tool. And let's change it to, say, a purple, a little more interesting. Then, let's locate our stroke palette. I'm going to bring it up here so we can see it. Now, if you're not seeing all the detail on your stroke palette that I am, maybe it looks like this. Click on that, top right, to show options. It'll open right up for you. So the first thing I want to do is make that stroke a whole lot thicker. Let's make it a big, beefy 20 point. We're not going to be using the cap function just yet, but you'll see it later. First thing we're going to do is change the corner. So as you can see, the default is a miter join, which is just a straight corner. Let's go to round join. See how it rounds off the edges? Bevel join is another option. You probably won't use that too often. Let's put it back. We're going to align stroke. The default right now is centered on where the box is drawn. Align stroke to inside does exactly what it sounds like. Align stroke to outside, same thing. Let's change this right now to a dashed line. Now, because this is a pretty thick stroke, 3 points with a 10-point gap isn't looking very good. Let's try making that 6 point with a 30-point gap. See what that looks like. Okay. Now the reason that looks so round right now is that my cap was left unrounded. One effect that you can add to your stroke is a dashed line. Let's just put that radio button on. Now the reason it looks so strange is that it's only a 6-point dash and a 10-point gap. We want to change that to, say, a 9-point with a 15-point gap. It looks a little better. Because it's a 20-point weight, let's try making it a 20-point dash with that 15-point gap. Not bad. Now, one way you can change the shape of that from a dash to a dot is to go up to cap. We're going to go from the butt cap to a round cap, or projecting cap. But the round cap is what we really need. Now, because of the shape and the weight and the size of the dash, we're going to have to adjust that so it doesn't look like lumps. So let's change the dash to a 20-point. And the gap, just say 40. It's starting to look like what we want, but it's still a little odd. So let's change the dash to a 15 or even a 10. And it's starting to look more or less like what we want. But see how the corners are looking kind of heart-shaped? Let's change our corner to the round join. It's starting to look more like the kind of an effect that we want. So I just suggest that you play with that for a little bit, see what you can come up with. I'm going to put this all back to its defaults. Another thing you can do, You can bring up your brushes palette. Once again, Window, Brushes. There are a couple of interesting defaults that you can pick up on. See, that's a nice little coupon border, a hand-drawn border. And there are a whole lot more than you can download for your own use. Let's bring up our brush library from the bottom to one of the custom ones. Let's go to an artistic one, say chalk, charcoal, pencil. That gives you a lot of hand-drawn options. I'm going to open that up. Open that back up to an 18-point rule, say. Keeps wanting to default back to a single 1-point rule. And let's click on blunt chalk. See how that's changed to look as if it was actually drawn with a piece of chalk? There's another one, chalk scribble. Once you've found one that you like, let's do that one. You can now take this, which Illustrator still sees as a basic box, and you can't do too much with it just now, but you can magically transform this into an editable object. So we're going to go up to our Object pull down to Expand Appearance, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see. That now looks as if it was hand-drawn, and every one of those little points is now editable. Zoom back. Now the one thing you have to remember is that at this point, unless you do a whole bunch of undos, you can't go back to a basic box. You would have to redraw that from scratch, or just save this as a new option.